So the Leadership Consortium owes its name and its origin from the fact that a consortium is in essence a grouping and a collective of ideas and thoughts. And it's embedded in the fact that leadership per se is not normally in the hands of one person. It should be a collective, it should involve different perspectives, it should involve a broad spectrum of what is possible from the leadership perspective. The Zenger-Folkman family of colleagues around the world represent a broad group of people who are playing in the leadership space. And our Australian colleagues, Terry Reynolds and Glenn Price, have done a magnificent job in putting together a set of podcasts that address the questions and the recipes within the Zenger-Folkman methodology. These podcasts represent step-by-step, short, bite-sized, normally about 3 to 4 minutes, ideas, concepts, and tips and tricks as to how we can build our extraordinary leadership. So our invitation is to enjoy these podcasts, squeeze as much value as you can out of them, and make it part of building your leadership stepway to extraordinary. The 17th podcast addresses the question of learning from our mistakes. In my experience and career as a business coach, it is true to say that this is probably one of the most prevalent areas I witness in terms of leaders who are moving forward in their space. Comparing ourselves to our international executive colleagues, I would hazard a guess that our egos are pretty high on the ego stakes, and it's true to say that this in many cases gets in our own way in terms of being able to embark on a leadership journey. Our research hinges and is built on the fact that if one is able to learn from one's mistakes, be open-minded, and seek feedback actively, this is a crucial part of any leadership journey going forwards. It is quite normal for many of us in our executive world to find that there are many situations where things go wrong, where we will have negative things impacting our life. However, the ability to be able to use these as learning experiences and build learning organizations is a key success factor for extraordinary leaders.
Welcome to the Leadership Digital podcast series with Glenn Price and Terry Reynolds.
Some leaders show such promise that they're expected to go all the way to the top of their organizations. But then something happens to make them fall back off track. These derailed executives have been the subject of some fascinating research. Morgan W. McCall Jr. and Michael Lombardo found that derailed executives make about the same number of mistakes as those whose careers continue onwards and upwards. But derailed executives do not use setbacks or failures in an assignment as a learning experience. They hide their mistakes from others. They do not take immediate steps to rectify what they've done. And they tend to brood about these mistakes, constantly reliving it for years afterwards. Those whose careers continue to soar do exactly the opposite. They readily acknowledge what's happened, alert colleagues to the potential consequences, do their best to fix it, and then proceed to forget about it and move on in their career. Our research confirms that the inability to learn from mistakes is the single biggest cause of failure for leaders. This is the first fatal flaw. We can only speculate about the reason for this. Is failure to learn from mistakes a symptom of not being willing or able to face reality because it's too painful? Does it show that people are unwilling to accept the fact that they could have done something wrong? Or do people genuinely not recognise the serious consequences of what they've actually done, believing instead that problem I had was no big deal? It doesn't really matter. Perhaps people have never learned the skill of objectively analysing their own behaviour. A CEO with a brilliant mind and many accomplishments had one fatal flaw. He made hasty decisions about whether to promote people, dismissing some as being incompetent after a 20-minute interview, and promoting others because of one thing that they had done or said. Despite countless warnings, the CEO selected as his VP of Finance an executive with a terrible reputation for backstabbing and sinister political behaviour. Eventually, the VP was successful in ousting the CEO through an end run to the executive board. Several people commented, "We tried to tell him, but he just would not listen." This CEO failed to change course, even after his mistakes were staring him right in the face. To best learn from mistakes, firstly, review past actions without cringing. Look back and examine what's happened. Where could the improvements have been made? Recognise that mistakes are part of the learning process. They can be valuable learning tools if you use them the right way. 2. Tell others when you make mistakes. Hiding mistakes only makes the outcome worse. Share your pain and the problem can begin to be solved. Be sure to inform those who will be affected by the mistakes. And 3. Solve the problem. Seek good advice from others you trust. Make adjustments. Then don't relive the past. Once you fix your mistake, just move on. I saw a saying once and it said that the teams that make the most mistakes generally win.
It's a pleasure to be able to share these thoughts and ideas with you and hopefully be part of allowing you to adopt a journey where extraordinary leadership is an opportunity and a growth area for you and your teams.